I'm a metal spoon in a pot. That's what I am.
Why are you thinking about fixing someone else's compound if yours is growing weed?
Ask that person, how will I eat? When you try and make a complex problem an individual problem, it's not fair. Not everything you create is for the market you are in. If I say I am African, of course I'm key. I will start from where I am with policy change. I don't need to go and change the one for Uganda or the one for Tanzania. And that's what I've done for the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years. Being where the conversations are being had. Why are people always looking for money? I'm just a bit worried that my generation don't understand that money flows through systems. You are bringing out another side.
I want to see this other side, actually.
A visionary leader, advocate, and cultural powerhouse, Olori Boye-Ajayi, the managing partner of Borderless Trade and Investments. She has amplified the voices of over 100,000 women, inspiring resilience and empowerment across the globe. A celebrated author and speaker, Olori seamlessly blends professionalism with social advocacy and activism, using her platform to drive change, mental health awareness, and female entrepreneurship. Whether she's mentoring the next generation or championing transformative initiatives, her impact is undeniable. Today, we discuss her journey, Borderless Trade, her insights on policy and personal development.
If you were not to use your name and not use your job title, who would you say you are?
I'm a metal spoon in a pot.
That's a very matrix answer.
Stirring water, oil, and trying to make it one. That's what I am.
I like how deep it is. I would like it to explain to me.
No, so I think at my core, what I know I am is a catalyst.
I like that.
So typically getting things started, jumping things up that were seemingly dead, including people, not just projects, including continents like Africa. That's why I said, you know, when you have a spoon,
the metal spoon. Now I get the analogy.
Yeah. So that's why I said it that way. It wasn't intended to be dramatic.
it was good drama, right? It had substance, as deep as it was, and I think that's good. Now, my next question is following like the idea of understanding that you're a catalyst. Yeah. The question is always, where did that epiphany come from? How did you know you were the one to get things started? Because obviously, if nothing is happening before you got there, people were there, and they knew nothing was happening. Why do you see yourself as the one who has to get things going?
I don't know that I saw myself as I have to get it going. It's just that things never remain the same when I'm in the project or around people. So whether by intentionality or even just proxy, people tend to change. So you can say it's something that I found myself in as well. And everyone has their bright spot. Yeah. So I call it my bright spot. You have yours as well, I'm sure. So my bright spot that I effortlessly am is a catalyst. And I know that because over the years, I've had different various transformational stories, whether from my chef who joined me as someone from like Benue State, had no skill, had nothing, leaves and becomes married and successful with her partner, to that kind of transformation, to my continent, Africa. I always take pride, like when I say like Africa. Yeah, definitely. To like trying to catalyze trade and intra-Africa trade and different things that for the last 15 years of my life that I've been devoted to. So it's from the big things to the small things that have affirmed who I believe I am. And then of course, God calls me some names I cannot share because they're private.
But so curious.
No, don't bother. But they're the kind of names that when they call you the name, you be like, I sabi. So yeah, self-esteem issues are not my problem.
They're not your struggles. I see that.
They're not things I'm concerned
Speaking
about.
of names that you are called, all right, one of the things I've heard people call you by is the acronym of your names, Oba, right? And I would loosely translate that to main king, all right? Now, you've done something in an industry where one thing you're known for is how you're catalyzing borderless trade, right? Do you see yourself as the king of borderless trade? Do you see yourself becoming the king of borderless trade? And what does that even mean?
So first things first, OBA is my initial.
Yes.
Olori, Boye-Ajayi. Yeah. So whether you call me Olori, na royalty, whether you say Oba.
Which is curious.
I didn't plan that. You can't tell me I plan to marry a guy who is BA. Right? That's why I said the names that God calls me affirms me so strongly that the names people call me on the outside just really, they just reflect what he's already calling me, right? So, and I resonate with this song. I'm sure you know it by Belumi Deborah Omoba.
Yes.
Right? You see it? OBA, Omoba. Like, it's a whole situation. She wrote it for me. So back to being...
You truly have no self-esteem problem.
No. We're not on that train anymore.
I like that.
And I've not always been this way, by the way. But when you reinvent yourself, you take out that cancer called low self-esteem.
I like that.
Yeah. So back to your question on, like... being the king of borderless trade. So no one person can claim that because it's a continent. It has 54 countries. Yeah. The member states are all king because what one country doesn't have, the other has. And, but we are all king as Africa, right? So not as individual. So I can't claim anything because I'm, yes, of course, from the most populous nation in the continent, but even at that doesn't mean we're the most prosperous.
True.
So can I really claim I'm king then? No. But if I say I am African, of course I'm king.
Oh, I like that.
Of course.
I'm going to go back. All right. I want to go back just a little bit. While you were explaining yourself, you said you've not always been like this.
Sure.
All right. There are a series of things I can list. And for the benefit of anyone listening, I would list. All right. You've aided over 80,000 women. You've changed how trade is done. I'm going to come back to that. These are strong things that you've done, right? And somehow I would believe there is something about a person that should achieve those things, right? I see the person you are, possibly, definitely being the one doing these things. Now I'm curious, who were you and where did that rebranding or evolving of yourself come from? What triggered it?
I'll start with something that I feel messed me up growing up, right? I was born in England, right, to a single mom. I was born in a church, actually. That's how poor, she didn't have anywhere. So I was born in a church in St. Thomas.
Literally in a church?
Literally in a church, yeah, before they took me to the hospital. Now, I ended up in Mushin. Imagine that. That is real migration.
I'm like really into this one.
Migration. This was epic for me because I had to ask about my birth story. And that's what I think a lot of our generation don't do. You don't ask, how did you come about? You weren't just in a family. What is the story regarding your birth? Was it good times? Was it hard times? Were there negotiations that you're not aware of? Like, how did you come about, right? So my mom tells me that there was a lot of rejection. She was 22, wedlock, had the baby out of wedlock. She was in a foreign country because she's a migrant, right? All these things were happening to her. Now, by the fact that I'm her daughter, you can imagine also that she didn't have all she needed.
Yeah.
And I'm going somewhere because you find out that how you end up seeing yourself also stems from where you're coming
from. Yes.
Let's not fake it till we make it. We don't need that in this day and age because they will find you out.
Very true.
I'm telling you.
Very true.
Right? So anyway, my mom goes through this season and I love her to bits because she's really one of my heroes because she pulled me into a system like Mushi that then recalibrated my mind. You can be born in America and you end up in Mushin, your mind will reset immediately. What are you talking about? Mushin is the south side of Ladipo Street, which is where we lived, is the south side of Mushin. That's how I say it. You can believe it or not, it's your business. It's not only south side of Chicago that exists, right? So now, one of the funny things is I lived with my grandmother. Now, that one person I'm talking about today is a core part of my brand today. the way I speak. So now if I switch to Yoruba, you'll be like, Olori, how because when you hear my Yoruba, it's conk. It's not anyhow.
It's
yes,
pure.
because of where I'm coming from. My reinvention stemmed from, if I am who God says I am, then I need to kind of like build my life that way. I'm not going to call myself one thing and not be that thing. That stayed with me for as long as I can remember. Now, I'm an only child to my dad, right?
Okay.
So I didn't have the luxury of modeling, seeing my brother, seeing my sister. There wasn't anything like that. I had to become all things to myself. Teacher, everything. My grandmother, who was super instrumental, taught me prayer, God, because who introduces you to life matters.
Yes. Very
Money,
true.
religion,
Very true.
education, right? She taught me some things in the wrong order.
Oh, I see.
But my reinvention now came when I now put the things in order.
In order.
That's what real reinvention
That's deep,
is.
though.
Yeah, that's what
That's
real
actually very
reinvention
deep.
is. Reinvention is, they taught me this thing late, so now I need it. I don't know it. Reinvention is you now take yourself and put that thing back and say, okay, I ought to know this by this age and that age. So I was way more, if you like, what's the word I want to use? Mature for my age.
I see. Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
I see what you mean.
Yeah, because I didn't have a stable background like that. I didn't live with my mother till I was 16.
Oh.
I didn't live with my dad particularly. So you kind of find that the gaps gave me time as well. I didn't live with anyone in particular as well. I can't tell you I lived with this one auntie or
You sort of shuffled
I was
through.
everywhere.
But
just
mostly different
in
type
families.
adults.
Yes.
I see.
You know,
I see.
families. So all these things kind of opened my eyes that, I don't want this kind of marriage. Or I'll go to this family and I'll see the way they're raising their children. I'll be like, no, this one is not. So I didn't see my not having a stable background as a disadvantage. It just showed me what I didn't want in my life.
You said it as lessons and learning points.
Straight.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I
So
see.
that's how we got to the reinvention phase.
But what triggered it beyond? So for someone who is seeing different things growing up,
Yeah.
right? I'm now curious how you knew for certain that this was not what you wanted, and where you saw the picture of what you wanted. What brought you here?
I never saw the picture that I wanted. I get this question a lot of times. Like people ask me, what's that thing that made you know? I want to believe it's also this God thing that I'm saying that it's just the way God saw me. And the thing just constantly told me, this is not you. How do you know that sin is sin? There's no label on it. But there's something that guards and guides you to say, you can't do that, bro.
Yeah.
When you abuse somebody, how do you know it's bad?
It's from the guts. You kind of feel
It's
it from
the same
guts.
thing.
Yeah.
But you see, some people don't put themselves in a position where they're like, this thing cannot be me. Like, I don't know how to explain. Even to the point where I used to see dogs in our family friends' compound. I'm like, why does your dog look so poor? Like, the dog looks broke, poor, disgusted. I'm like, why do you have a dog? So I've never liked dogs since then.
Because of that.
Because of that. Do you see what I mean? So little
get
things
you.
just
I
made
get
my
you.
brain say, nah, we're not going to be poor. We're not going to be broke.
I have a confession.
Tell
so
me.
I sort of the same thing, and every time I say it, they're like, it's my perspective, right? I kind of always tie alcohol with poverty. So it like now I'm grown and I know that it's not really, but like, so I grew up. I like when you said like we can hide where we're coming from, right? People will find out. And then I grew up in the barracks, so definitely a million people know, right? A million people would know. And but there was a peculiarity, and for me it was my mom, right? She was very tough. You know, she was very tough. And so I was one of those kids who, when people played outside, I was reading a book.
Really?
You know, and so I sounded different for a very long time. So typically when people ask, where did you get your accent from? I would say I watched a lot of cartoons growing up. I was allowed to only watch a specific type of program, right? So there were specific cartoons I could watch, and it kind of framed.
Yeah, it's I mean, that's why it's called programs, because it's programming.
It's programming,
Yeah.
So,
and fair to her.
Yeah. Oh, I would give her the credit anytime, right?
Definitely.
And growing up in church, I grew up in those churches where alcohol was a sin. So, and then all the rich people in church were the ones who were echoing alcohol was a sin. And in the barracks, however, all the men who drank were poor. So in my head, I'm like, I don't want to be these guys. So I definitely kind of just put alcohol, poverty, cigarette, poverty, because like the rich people I knew,
They weren't
they
doing
were
that.
not doing that.
At least not openly.
At least not openly, yes, because
Yeah.
it took a long time to find out that one of the deacons I looked up to owned a very big hotel and a big bar. So I was like, wait, what? But I never saw it like that. All right. And that kind of shaped how I perceived alcohol. And it makes sense now hearing you talk about like how you kind of framed what poverty was. Yeah. That's good. That's good. So now I understand the mindset behind this. Do you think it's that same mindset that has pushed you to want to help other women, specifically? Because I know you're doing a lot for women. Is that what has pushed you, especially your background, your mom, your grandma?
Maybe not.
Maybe
can't.
not?
I don't want to say it is. What definitely, and by the way, it's 100,000 SMEs, not 80.
Now 100,000.
Yeah, it's 100.
Amazing.
So, and hopefully we get into that. To do 100K
That's
is
a
actually
lot.
pretty, no, it's tiny.
It is?
I'm telling you.
I want to know how and why.
It's tiny because when digital came into play, then there should have been leverage. True or true?
Very true.
Good. So now if I did all the things I did in the last 10 years through digital, because I had to do a lot manually. Yeah. And I know that the continent is literally, our technology adoption is literally just,
we're just
getting into it.
Into
so imagine if I could redo my last 10 years with tech.
With tech. Now I see why it's yes,
and it's a 1.3 billion sized continent.
Yes.
I mean, 100K is like 0.000.
Yes.
Nah. So it's not a lot, but I'm working on how to up those numbers, even with certain digital platforms, right? But to your question, my mom and my grandmother definitely didn't. I don't think they inspired why I started to help women. Women for me have just, it's almost like a calling. Your calling does not have to have anything to do with your background. God just sees that, just send her for me. It's like you're being posted. Where you are being posted to, especially in Nigeria, does not have anything to do with what you read in school. God just says, hey, give that girl, give her Africa and tell her that she should empower the women and do da-da-da. That's really more of what it is. So it's a calling for me. It's an assignment that I'm clear about, and I know that I'm sent to that particular set of people.
I appreciate that, actually. All right, so now I want to get a bit more comprehensive. All right, you sort of dived into it when you talked about digital tools, right? What you're doing, I feel like when you look at the continent, there's a lot of restriction in trade, all right? Doing retail tech like I have seen how fluid it can be elsewhere. How I would explain the chain is it's called a retail chain for a reason, right? It's because there's a series of industries playing together, and you have payment, you have manufacturing, you have distribution. They are all sort of working together, and that's why you can have successes in all of these industries all spanned out. But like in our continent, to move things from Nigeria to another country within Africa becomes a bomb. To move things from Lagos to the east becomes a bomb, and you're like, okay, how are you doing that? All right, I want to start with like let's go into that. How are you able to rectify the issues, and then how has digital tools helped you to do this?
So, but for me, I'm no longer in the what we call practicing export. But because I have zoomed out as an exporter to being more on the policy or just sort of being more on the macro level, and that's one of the reasons why I had to zoom out, because you can have a good product, good intentions, but if you're not playing where the decision makers are, you're going to be frustrated as a solopreneur, and you'll be wondering, why can't I? It's not anybody from your village. It's just the way the cookie. Yes. It's a very dysfunctional system. And you spoke about things like how has the advent of digital tools, let's just call it the digital economy, right? Because the tools are like one aspect. But digital economy has not only democratized global trade, but it has made what used to seem like an unfair advantage for a young girl in Lagos who is selling, let's just use this mug, right? But the difference is her mugs have the shape of Africa, she paints it and da-da-da-da-da. But she's now wondering, now let me say this to free somebody up real quick. Not everything you create is for the market you are in. If you want to be global, because you see some people write global at the end of their name on Instagram, they'll say, Temi Global. It's a good thing. But here's what I want to say. If you created this mug in your house in Ilukbeju, for example, a place in Lagos, Nigeria, and you know that the immediate people in Ilukbeju will not buy because hello is a mug.
Yes, it is a mug.
It's a nice to have. But do you know that there'll be other places in Italy, other places in Europe, that they'll be like, what? Oh my God. They will be fantasizing over this, your beautiful mug. What digital has helped us do now is to ease that trade, that this girl in Ilukbeju does not have to travel to Europe to be able to sell the mug. Now, not only is she going to cut 4 or 6 people who would have been in the chain, what digital has done for her is collapsed that middle and say, you know what, deal directly with your buyers.
With the buyer,
How? Shopify. She puts it on Shopify today, adds a few credibility. And look, let me tell you something. You see all those things like reviews and all those, they are critical in that side of the world. Maybe in Nigeria, and not necessarily just Nigeria, but maybe in Africa, they may say it's not important. But you see in that side,
it's very important.
You don't want to know how many businesses lose customers because of these little things.
Your stock could drop.
Yes, your stock could literally. So digital has helped people who once felt disadvantaged by infrastructure. You can't have any excuse anymore.
Okay.
You don't, like, if you are complaining that Nigeria is not good, you now, I can see you are not thinking.
I want to play the devil's advocate here.
Go on.
Right? Let me play the devil's advocate. So, the digital economy is simplifying a lot of things.
Yeah.
That much is true. But I interviewed someone else recently. And he said something. He said, why are you thinking about fixing someone else's compound if yours is growing weed? All right. This analogy seems like, you know what? There's weed here. I'm just going to sell my cup. Someone else. So what's your take on that?
My take is, ask that person, how will I eat? How will I eat? I don't understand the way people think sometimes. You see, when you try and make a complex problem an individual problem, it's not fair. So that person now should go. You are bringing out another side.
I want to see this other side, actually.
So you want to make Nigeria's oh God. You can't make Nigeria's problem my problem. What's that? Is a fix a whole garden of 230 million people. That uncle is wicked. Please pass my message. Tell that uncle that, okay, no, now here's the worst part. My president, for example, is not manning his compound. He's doing what he is doing in another man's compound. Is me now as per I'm patriotic. Please tell that uncle he can start the gardening of the compound.
You know what? Now I'm probably going to think about a way to sit both of you. And I'll throw this question again.
Happy to do a debate.
Yeah, I would
to do a debate. Because these are not just infrastructural, they are cultural, and spiritual. Like, do you know what Nigeria is dealing with here? It's deeper than you telling me to come and serve a particular market like Nigeria. Nigeria is complex. Nigeria is a complex country. So that's why a lot of other investors will prefer going to other smaller African nations that have less bureaucracy, have less infrastructural challenges, have less when it comes to financial systems that work. No, that's not a fair thing to say to an individual.
So I'm still the devil's advocate for another 5 minutes. So 2 things. Earlier you said you were playing at the policy level. All of a sudden I'm thinking, don't you kind of fall under the category of people who can actually change things so that it's easy for the person playing to play
At the bottom.
At the bottom.
Yeah, 100%. And I have been. When I switched from doing the practice of export, from that was probably around 2017, right? I was in manufacturing, textile, fashion. Man, my God.
It's the man.
I don't know how Nigerians are just resilient human beings. And it's not a praise thing, because it also means we take a lot of crap.
I use the word beautiful, so but yeah, I get what you meant.
Like, so doing that low level exporting here and there opened my eyes to be able to speak at a higher level.
Oh, I see.
So being on both sides gave me the perspective. However, when you have this compound that this uncle is talking about, that is vast, please, how many voices do you think need to rise up in that compound for it to change?
When you want to hear anything, it's too big.
So it's so big. That's why I said the problems are complex. The way to address it must also take a complex manner. So the little things that I do, whether it's supporting trade finance institutions with maybe research programs, implementing it for them, showing other nations in Africa that we can actually change our own problem. That's how you start. I'm not going to start by trying to change everything. I'm going to make sure that on the flip side, to now buttress this uncle's point that you mentioned, is to say, yes, I will start from where I am with policy change. I don't need to go and change the one for Uganda or the one for Tanzania. I will start here. And that's what I've done for the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years, being where the conversations are being had, or sending enough, if you like, solutions, other perspectives for our ministries to consider. The whole of last year I was in and out of Abuja like crazy because we were trying to push for them to put some things at the forefront that maybe they would not have considered as important.
I see.
Do you see? So I agree with him that in looking at policy, you start from
home.
Yes, but if I'm trying to survive, you say I should start. Please.
Oh, so I see it now. So for the person who is trying to survive, survive first.
Survive first.
Then,
and it's not even that seller's job to change policy.
Yeah,
that's not my job.
I get you.
Yeah.
All right. Another thing though with the digital economy is I train people, and one of the complaints I hear is, which the first time I heard it, it was such a shocker, and someone used the term, I think it was privilege, something privilege, where you don't know you have a certain privilege, right? So I heard people complain that they couldn't join a live call. Now, someone else had paid for these people, so which means they were not paying, right? People covered the expense. It was a free training. It was a master class training. It was practical, right? Okay. And some people who all you needed was a phone said they couldn't afford data. And I kept thinking, I do know there's a data plan that's like, what, 100 naira, all right? Like, there is no way you can do that and join the call. And I got a large number of people. So he started hitting me that the problem might be way deeper than I was seeing it, that there is a case where I think the digital economy is doing fine because the people I'm surrounded by, the internet is not a problem. But there is a vast majority of Nigerians that truly need the skill that don't even know. You know, if you ask people what apps they have on their phone, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and they don't know that they probably need Slack. They don't know that they probably need Calendly. They don't know that they need tools that can help them plan their day, planners, Notion, and the rest. You know, people pay money to learn Notion, and I thought Notion is something everybody should have. Like, why are you paying to learn how to type, right? Now, to that person who you're saying the bridge has sort of been shortened, what if they're at a place where they didn't even see the bridge at all?
So I'll address, you've addressed like 3-4 things in that scenario, right? So I'll start with what I think we should address as a positive, which is, despite the fact that Africa only contributes about 3% to global trade, what might fascinate you though is we are growing digital trade at 25% annually. That's the fastest anywhere.
Growth, I would,
right?
True.
But the concern I have is that about 70% of African businesses are still offline.
Very true.
Now imagine if we're doing 25% growth annually, what would happen?
With less than 30% of the actual market.
You know. Oh man.
That's
picture
potential,
that.
yes.
Do you see
That's
what I
huge,
mean?
though.
That's massive.
That's huge.
So now let's break it down. What does that mean? It means that we have to ask the question, why do we have just 30% online?
Good question.
One, issues of this thing you've mentioned about data. So there's a difference between mobile penetration and internet penetration.
True.
Right?
True.
Mobile is everybody has
A cell phone.
a cell phone. But how many people have access as in internet on that?
Yeah.
That's where it now drops dramatically. So when you hear programs where it's sponsored, fully sponsored programs and all of that, my own question sometimes is, as you rightly said, because I've actually been a mentor on many of those, many. Mm-hmm. I'm still on some of them actually. Mm-hmm. It is for a select few.
In the end, isn't it?
In the end, there is definitely still a bias as to who will be reached
and who
would be left out. My question is this though. Those, and watch the
choice of words.
No, watch the reasoning here.
Okay.
These programs that are fully sponsored, what is the real goal? Are they trying to tick off a particular task list, numbers list, or are they trying to build infrastructure?
I would say in my case, I was trying to build infrastructure.
Right. But infrastructure is what? Did you provide internet?
That's the downside.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the downside.
So that's what I'm saying. Is that solution really hitting the core. Or is it helping at a surface level?
So in the end, I would only still get
the certain people. So what I would do differently is if I don't know, who was the company you mentioned? The one that was giving the free training.
Mine.
Yours, right? Tech Bro?
Yes. Oh, no. Digital.
Right. Let's say you guys really wanted to do some high level and even grassroots level, right? Whichever level you choose. The day you go and put an internet or mast or something that provides data, or you set up a workshop, what did we call those? Internet cafes.
Yeah.
Maybe you call it something different because now we're in 2025, right? But it will shock you that if you go to the East, they are still using those internet cafes till today.
Oh, I know. Enugu has one of the finest hubs. Exactly. Yeah. And I do actually own a couple of hubs. So
it's very important that we attack the problem from the root. If you keep doing those things at the high level, you say you're providing free program, how many people even have laptops?
In the first place, yes. It was a shock when I said I was going to be giving free laptops and people lost their minds. I was like, wait, what? So yeah, I get you. It
is a huge privilege that we enjoy. We are super divided. The digital divide is key, not just with sex, so women and men. Mm-hmm. That's a very massive gap, by the way. The other gap is with status, right?
I think that one.
It is what it is, right? The parity for me can be solved by the people who bring those solutions. They just need to want to go deeper.
So what you're saying is, at this point, it's not the people who are at the bottom that should try to level up, but the people at the top should come down.
As well. It's both ways.
Here's my God complex going. Even God said, come to me. Why am I coming down?
So digital literacy is it's both the person you're trying to reach and the solution you're providing. It's both. Both of them have to meet. Move. Yes. Both of them have to move. That's my take.
All right. I do like that. Now, honestly, I like the humanity in how you perceive things. All right. I like how concerned you are about the people themselves that you're providing solutions for. It then comes back to people are people. Yeah. All right. What have been your biggest struggles with people as you're enacting change, as you're trying to enforce this? You're talking policy, you're still talking grassroots. All right. What has been your biggest struggle with the exchange, the trade system, the women empowerment programs that you do?
Honest answer or the camera answer?
No camera answer.
Man. I wish Africans really want to help Africans. I really wish like we had more Africans who want to help Africans, because the numbers of who really do are not enough for the radical change we need as. If you hear an institution say they want to help Africa, in that institution, which consists of people, you will find that only 10% are true. You'll be surprised that even institutions, I mean church too.
Oh, I know.
Please, it's not just the DFIs and the development agencies. I'm even saying even the church, who is a type of institution that should accelerate some level of change, morality, value. You may not be able to bring economic development, but you can add to the fabric of society by saying, like, I don't know where it was that we went recently, and how religion plays a role in how that
how it shapes
economy.
I even believe
like
it shapes
in
economy.
Middle
though.
East, yes, that's what I'm saying.
It does
That
shape economy.
religion absolutely shapes economies.
Yeah.
However, I'm saying that even in that one that you really expect to be like, a drive, you're wondering, like, where is everybody? Everybody cannot keep pointing and saying, oh, yeah,
Exactly.
Scott is going to do it. Yeah, Scott's good. Scott's fine. There's Scott, there's
John.
Amy, there's John, there's Bissy, there's, Edima. Everybody has their role. But I don't think that everyone has taken ownership.
The intent to really play to solve.
You've got to take
problem.
ownership. Whether you are even a stay-at-home mom, please raise the children right, because family is an institution.
I agree. I very
So
much agree.
I'm saying that the institutions that matter still consist of people that they need to check themselves.
How has this impacted you? Like, I can hear it in your voice, and I can hear the restriction of certain words, but I want to really know, like, what you've been trying to bridge something, right? How have they pushed back, and how have you had to deal with it? All honest.
Some days it's really disappointing because the people you're trying to help are not helping themselves. Facts. Like, we had a network of over 8,500, and you tell them, this is the way, go daring. But alas, with their hand and by their, and look, it's a mindset thing as well. I'm sure, like what I was trying to say, for them, it's like, Olori, I just want to survive. Yeah. What you're asking for is too much. But what I do like, though, is if there's 1,000 people who you are trying to help, you may not be able to get 1,000 people to do what you are trying to achieve, but you will get at least like 50 to 100.
That's a good number. Yeah, that's a good
So
number.
that's the conclusion I've come to, that I can't save the world. Wasn't trying to anyway. You can't even save Nigeria. Nobody except God can save our...
It's the switch.
Nobody can, right?
Yeah.
However, I strongly believe that you make peace with what you can. And I've made my peace that I will keep, whether people see it or not, because, in this day and age, people want to gauge what you're doing by what you're posting. Yeah. I ain't got time for that. I'm putting out what I want you to see. I can't put you in every meeting I'm in. I can't put you on my calendar to say, look, I actually went to see the governor on this and this. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I owe it to my call and the person who called me to show up. I don't need you to validate that process. So I think I've made peace with it. And by the way, you will find that when you're trying to solve a problem or answer your call, you will go through different variations of yourself.
Very true.
So one time you may be given the free trainings. At other times, you may be the one being trained. Okay. You may go back to school and be like, I want to go learn a little bit more on global leadership and AI or whatever for the African context. Like, who you are in solving a problem changes, it keeps evolving. But most people are attached to just one version because they want to be CEO. I own the business. Celebrates you.
It's funny, but I personally don't like the title.
Which one?
CEO.
I'm not even CEO. I don't know why people call me
that.
They'll just put me in trouble with God.
I keep telling people that it is an employee role, so it should humble you. It should not make you an arrogant.
Yeah, 100.
It's an employee role. It simply means you're an officer, right? That means you are part of the army. You're not above the army. If you're an officer, you're part of the army, and your job is to execute. right? What it also means is you're responsible for the failure of it. And I feel like when that sinks in, you get more humble, right? So I think I'm so proud to want to be humble like that. Yeah. So I stay away from the title and just believe if I can execute work and it can be measured based on what the goal is, that's something, right? So I like that. And I like that you've also come to accept that, yes, there are struggles. You're saying, even if you're 1,000, the 5% I hit is fine for me.
100.
I like that. Okay. Yeah. Now, something we've been saying a lot throughout this conversation is borderless trade, your involvement in it. And in tech, we have a lot of words that when you sit down and think about it, they're kind of bogus. They don't mean much, you know, and we do it intentionally, you know, and sometimes you just put the words so it sounds dramatic and there's no real meaning to it. Now, we've said borderless so many times, right? But in reality, there is a lot of border restriction. Yeah. So what does borderless trade really mean?
Well, borderless trade is a dream, the same way you have the African dream. I see. So it's the Africa we see that is borderless. Do you see? Where all the, and we're getting, we started going on that journey with the AFCFTA, which is the trade agreement between the member states of the continent operating as one single market. So we are definitely on the verge of being borderless. I guess what you could argue is it in, you know, when sometimes you are fantasizing about an idea and the reality on ground is not so. Yeah. So my question is, I tell people, look, I'm an optimist when it comes to the continent because you need optimism to be able to...
There's a level of blind faith.
Yeah, you just need that. And I think with the advent of this AFCFTA agreement, what we're going to see is it might take us 20 years. I mean, the EU, it took them, I don't know, well over that to be able to converge their, you know, the EU. How we get there, I don't know. But are we on the way? Yes. And that's enough.
To help give insights, right? To help give insights. What are the ministries, the agencies that are currently working to achieve this? So if I wanted to be a part of this and I needed to know who are the people responsible, how can I be a part of it? How do I even know who to talk to?
Yeah. Well, I suppose it depends on, you know, when you say be a part, is it a part of the conversation? Is it a part of you saying you want to open up a hub that there are many ways to come into the conversation. So it's difficult to kind of give you how many, but who is championing borderless trade in Africa today is the AFCFTA Secretariat. Okay. So the AFCFTA Secretariat, which is, you know, headed by His Excellency Wamkele, he will be like the person driving the ship. However big our ship is, then you now have different member states, their presidents, ministers, and all the other government officials with their own Ministry of Trade and Investment now saying, okay, we're going to cooperate with you. Between, you know, the Secretariat and those different member states, you would have the regional blocks. So ECOWAS, SADC, COMESA, and all the likes, who are the regional, like I said, they're the regional blocks that are more, if you like, some people claim that they're older than, But yeah, so that's why I said it's difficult for me to give you how you can plug in today, because it's more like you don't need to plug in at that level. I would say you should plug in at your country level. And at the country level, we have a national coordination office, which is based in Abuja, headed by Mr. Segun Awolowo.
That's good insight.
Yes, so people, if they want to know today how to join the AFCFTA, whether as a service provider or a product distributor,
or manufacturer,
depending on what you do with product, you can go, either you call or visit their websites. It's called the National Coordination Office for AFCFTA Nigeria. Nice. So people can, of course, visit them if you're in Abuja. They're very open. Then you have other councils, agencies like NEPC. Sometimes what people don't know is that, look, the system is the system, right? you have to go through it. So, for example, you do a lot of services, right? Service-based type things. You still need to have certain not certification, but
licenses
that make you be able to say, okay, I want to trade abroad.
Yeah.
People are doing it informally because ain't nobody gonna know when you're on Fiverr and Upwork and all these, gig economy type platforms. But if you're saying formal export, then you have to go through those systems. NEPC is one of them. You need your your exporting license to be able to become an exporter. And honestly, it's when you're earning big cash, you realize if you go behind the system, by the time you get your first major contract, they will ask for those documentation. So I tell people, you can jump it, it's okay, keep doing what you're doing. But when you enter have real money, by the time they ask you for your privacy policy, they ask you for your DEI, you'll just be like, oh my God. Yeah. So going global is sweet, but it's like a journey that you have to allow yourself think of before you start. So a lot of people got halfway in their business and say, I want to go global.
That's when it hits.
Then I'm like, are you ready to do everything in between? Going global is sweet, but
it's not always easy.
It's not the easiest journey.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I do very much agree with that. Resonates with me because I think it was last year. Last year we were raising, and we were building a very interesting tech product. And again, it was for a specific market. Yeah. So we thought we were fine. We had everything in place, and we were going to close a subset of a distribution company in the UK. And then they asked us for our security measures. We had a very, technical security measure in place until they started asking for certain certification for security. You could see the whole team losing their mind because the way the US runs security and policy is different from how the UK runs. And we were like, this is not so necessary, is it? But they kept pushing. So we were not going to get the money. We're not going to close the deal until that was done. So we went back again. For us, it's called tech debt, where you start restructuring your internal system just because you could have done it before and you chose not to do it. So I very much agree. We gathered a lot of tech debt because of that one thing. And we were lucky. They were patient. I think that was one thing. They liked the product so much that they were patient. But we spent another 3 months
trying to put things in place.
Yeah. So I very much agree with that. So whatever you kind of skip now, you come back.
You'll come back to it eventually. Yeah. And if you haven't started your business, this is for okay. If you haven't started your business or maybe you're about to start the next phase of your business, just don't think of it like, oh, I'm servicing Lagos or Nigeria. See it as I'm servicing the globe from day one.
From day one?
From day one.
Isn't that domain too big though?
No.
Does it not blind you from what's happening?
No. You see, when the West teach you things, they don't teach you like it's for the West. No, you're a global citizen.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I think that's some of the mindsets that have made people dream big too late. You dream big. It was late because now you can't do some things because you have to go back and it's a mess. Honestly, I've been there, so that's why I'm saying it from experience.
It's from experience.
I'm not saying it because it's nice. Dream big from day one. You can start with Lagos, but if you know you're not ending in Lagos, then my dear, put all your books in a row. And I'm really grateful for like how the digital economy has disrupted trade. It really has. Because even with trade finance, and I think I should chip this in, people may not know that even the way you are able to get credit has changed.
Yes, for sure.
And that is because of tech.
That's very
true.
So
Africa may have suffered from being able to borrow money, whether within our systems because the interest rates are just ridiculous. But now you have like new digital products.
Yeah.
In finance that are helping people access credit faster.
Measuring their credit score.
Is it fair money or what they call fair money?
Fair money, run
money. Carbon. Those guys are giving you based off of, they are giving you cash because of what you're doing with your mobile.
True.
And that's why I say to people, like, if I'm going to give you any advice, you've got to put that business on mobile. If it's not on mobile, then you don't understand.
You don't understand.
You don't even understand what's
True.
happening.
You know, you can't do anything these days if the internet does not track a good digital record. You know, so there's something I know in finance now where if you wanna, since the credit score system is still being like, it's still growing here. What they now do is they check the digital footprints.
100.
You're spending in this
They
just
check
space.
they check your WhatsApp
Yes.
business and see, okay, like how
much interactions
do you have with your customers.
Yeah.
They check your inventory as well,
Yeah.
because they expect that everything is here. So what used to take, I don't know, they will tell you to go and bring your daddy's land. Say go and bring your daddy's goats and the chicken, or everything your family owns, bring it. Now you have a democratized system saying, let's just see what's going on this.
Yeah. And it does level the playing field.
100%.
It does level the playing
it
field.
makes it, and it makes it easier for women like my color and for women, because we used to be super like sidelined in the credit system, right? But now formal credit is so accessible because of what I'm doing on my phone.
Device.
So no more, we're going to bring audited financial, 3 years. You can access my banking system just with my phone.
Yeah.
So I love how Fair Money and Carbon have really like disrupted the space, because they are just showing true innovation, but now helping the underprivileged, underserved to be able to come up. Can you see what we're talking about? Like using these digital,
I see.
Go for the root of the problem. The root of the problem was not credit. It was that access to credit was a problem.
What about information about credit? Because there is access and then there's the abuse of it. Right now, the credit system, specifically in Nigeria, is struggling because there's a lot of data compromisation. You can't really track people for who they are. I don't even know why we're talking about credit, but like we got in
there.
So there is
is funding not one of the major issues most businesses have?
It is.
If they don't understand these little things,
then
I always say to people, come out of your bubble. Come out of your bubble. What's really going on? Are you doing this business as a hobby or to just survive? If it's for survival, I'll see you later. But if you know that you want to live up to what this business could be, you've got to come into the bigger conversations. You've got to be able to say, oh my days, is that what's really going on? You know, especially creatives. And this is just a note to creatives, right? Because you guys are going to disrupt the economy of Africa within the next 3 to 5 years. If you are a creative and you don't have any idea as to in the next 3 years, who is leading the conversation? Which continent will be number one in championing creative, the creative economy on this continent? Then you are joking.
Yeah.
If you're not attending events where they're having this conversation, you are joking.
Yeah. To point it out, we're not talking about who's the most famous person on the internet. We're talking about the people who are going to decide what policy should
decision makers,
what's happening on the person who will say, you know what, I don't like Instagram. Let's take it off the country's
taxes. Have you seen the digital tax?
Yes, I've seen
the conversations around digital tax. Why should you be taxed for Google ads and certain? You're just like, hello, what's going on here?
I wrote more like a thesis on that, because I kept. There is the idea that if I provide my own power, I provide my own water, I provide my own. So I'm sort of governing myself. Yeah. And then the idea of taxing is that, you know, I'm doing something that is impacting the economy that I live in, and I have to now pay when I make from it. But if I'm earning from somewhere else, right, it means my survival is on me. My inflow is also on me. Why do I owe
you as the government?
The government. Yeah.
I mean, the arguments for and against is that the digital tax could help us. I said could.
I like the could.
Help us with the digital infrastructure. All things being equal.
Yeah.
That the money will go there. Or it could be stifling the innovation that is being seen in this digital space.
Yeah, because there is a reason why the United States has said, you know what, don't do anything with what's going on with AI and Web3. Why? Because they want to see it grow. Because if you try to stop it now, there's a reason why we're not talking so much policy heavy with AI, because the moment the policy start hitting left and right, there are too many things you have to put in place, and you can't tell how far it can go. All right. Okay, so I have to bring this back in. Something we were discussing earlier before the program started, and maybe we could end with that. Like we could take that to the end. Is you're driven by changing the minds of people. And I think that's why you are a catalyst, because you did mention that as well. Like changing the mind kind of impacts how do you do anything else. All right. Now I know that because we talked about it, but how are you doing that as a side trade?
So I have, one of the things I strongly believe in is if you say that you are a child of God and you believe that, you should be multifaceted. So people can know me for trade, but what else do they know me for? So of course, outside of my professional work, I have other platforms that are online. And I recently wrote, I can't call it a paper because, we were talking about this. But it's a
roadmap.
A roadmap, thank you. One of the hardest things for me recently has been, why are people always looking for money?
Because... should I answer the question?
No, seriously.
I want to buy a jet. I would like to buy a jet.
Your own is much. Jet how?
Did you see the traffic?
Fair. Boats. Start with boats.
Boats, yes.
I guess I'm just a bit worried that my generation don't understand that money flows through systems. They think they have to work for money.
I like that so much.
It's a sad reality. So my mentees, my inner circle guys, they have access to this roadmap, and it's available now online. We've recently just launched it like 3 days ago.
Nice.
And I couldn't even charge what it is worth, because then we're talking, I will be really, bringing it to a small. So it's literally at a stupid price because I want to see how much you want to invest in knowing how to be rich. So it contains systems that I have used for so many years. I mean, our current portfolio size of investment or for investment is $5 billion US. $5 billion. Like, I know that we got there through system. We didn't get there through, a Conde Bala. No, there was that, and there was something, a system, right? And in order for you to have success, there are 5 systems you must have. And I spoke I questioned you on some of it today. The first one is your learning system. How consistently do you learn? New knowledge. If I ask you this week, how well
have you learned?
Like new knowledge, not even learned, new knowledge that made you think, this might work, or whatever you want to learn about. The second is your creation system. I tell people, if you're a creative, this one you should have order, because we can create endlessly.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm a slight creative, like just a little bit. And that really talks about how consistently you put these ideas on your notes on your phone into output. Into, like, bring it out of you.
Yeah.
Right? Then the third is your distribution system. How do you put it in? That's the one we were talking about. That you've created such a great thing. It could be something for people's hair. It could be something for their hand. It could be knowledge. How well are you putting that in front of people's faces? Like consistently. The key word for any system is consistency.
Consistency, yeah.
So everything I've said is about consistency.
Yeah.
And then the next one is monetization system. So if you have not even reached distribution,
you will not get to monetization.
You can't get to monetization.
Yeah.
So that monetization is, how do we get people to pay for the value you've created? And then the last one is your investment system, which is turning your income into wealth, right? So anyway, not to kind of go too much into it, but if you can even just have those, start with those 5.
You will change.
You will change the kind of money you are rolling in. And I tell people that action plans are better than knowledge.
Very true.
Tell me step 1. Unless you are a goat, you will not do step 1.
Okay.
Serious. So, yes, they've told you this is step 1. You say, no, I want to go another way. Anyway, so yeah, in the book, it's called MAN, M-A-N, which is an acronym.
I like that.
Yeah, it's called MAN, the map to earning your multi-million-dollar kind of like your first. So when you want to enter that season, It's not just something you will.
You don't just sprout
No, you're not
into
gonna.
it. Yeah.
You know, it's
a
step 1,
process.
2, 3. Like, so I lay it all there, and like I said, yeah, it's available online.
I've really enjoyed this. Now, here's something I've been doing. I do it with every guest. I am asking questions I'm curious about, all right? But I'm sure there's something you would have wanted to say. So if there was a question that you would have wanted me to ask, what would it be to end this? What would that thing be? And then what would be your answer to it?
Oh, wow. I feel like I would have wanted you to ask around how, so it still stems from what I was trying to say earlier about how people should come out of their bubbles. Like, you are not all that exists in the world.
That's good.
Your business is in an ecosystem. What do you know about these things, right? Like, how can somebody who is a photographer or a videographer learn more about his space? How do you start teaching our generation that Nigeria is not all there is? UK is not all there is. I know your friends went to the US last year. You are wishing that you have visa. That's not all there is. So there are conversations that will eventually affect the next 5 years. Are you in them? That's what I wish that we had sort of touched on.
So, and the touch points is things are happening, conversations are happening.
Powerful conversations. Conversations are happening every day.
Every day.
But the powerful
ones
ones
yeah.
that are leading the whole narrative. Have you not seen recently that Chalk City got signed as
distribution?
I mean, like, what are you doing?
I think we sort of saw that coming.
I don't know if I saw it coming, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. So my thing there is like, how do you then position
to be in the room?
To be in the room and all.
One of my favorite plays, Hamilton, and I think one of the track there was, I want to be in the room where it happens. And I think that's a good way to end this. So what you're saying is, we need to start working towards being in the room where it's happening.
100%.
And it's a conscious effort.
It is.
It's a step-by-step effort.
It is, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. It was really good.
There's been so much. All right. I'm going to watch this over and over again for sure. Specifically because I think I was laughing a lot. As you said a lot of amazing things and they kind of hit home. So thank you very much. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you very much. And I really look forward to other conversations on Beyond Transactions. Do you see how I rhymed there?
Yes, kind of rhymed.
What can
you
I
are
say?
creative.
Listen. I don't get enough credit.
Let me do the bit for you. All right.
Thank you.
That was fun, actually.
Thank you, guys.